Hi, I'm Dorothea, and this is Wednesday Night Home Group, and this is our third lesson for the month of April 2021, and we are talking about Jesus's I am statements. We've covered 4 so far. We're going to cover 2 more tonight, and then next week we'll finish up with the last one. So let's go ahead and get to it. John chapter 11, and we're going to read verse 25. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And of course, Jesus is talking to Martha here, and he's setting us up. Once again, we see that he is giving a physical example of a spiritual principle. And we've seen that quite a bit, and we're going to see it even more in our other example as well. So Martha believed in the resurrection to come. At the end, when there's judgment, she believed that there would be a resurrection at that time. But Jesus was explaining to her that there is a spiritual principle, and in Jesus himself, that he is the resurrection. And so he demonstrated the principle by raising Lazarus from the dead. Lazarus was Martha's brother, and he was dead. So the Apostle Paul explains this really well. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 1, and we're going to look at verse 19, and then we're going to skip down to chapter 2. And this is the middle of Paul's prayer for the saints, and so we're going to pick up here kind of in the middle of it. It says, and he's saying he wants us to know the exceeding greatness of his power, of God's power toward us who believe, according to the working of his mighty power, when he worked in Jesus to raise him from the dead and seated him at his right hand. And so what Paul is saying is the same power, the same strength of power that raised Jesus from the dead is working in us, and he wants us to know that and be aware of it. Now, chapter 2, verse 1 says, "In you he made alive, who were dead in trespasses and sins." Now, what Paul is saying is that we were dead. Our spirit man, before knowing Jesus, was as dead could be. Our spirit man was as dead as Lazarus was 4 days in the grave, as dead as Jesus was 3 days in the grave. And our spirit man was equally dead and equally needed God's power to be able to raise us up from the dead. So when we came to know Jesus as the resurrection and the life, we experienced God's mighty resurrection power. Amen. Let's go ahead and turn over in our Bibles to John chapter 15. And we're going to look at verse 1 and verse 5 specifically right now. It says, Jesus said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. So the key word in this passage, and if you read it all, which I'm going to have you read it all later, it talks, that word abide is given there multiple times. It's a key word for this passage. And the word abide simply means to live in. It's your dwelling place. So what Jesus is saying is you have to live in me. You have to make your home in me. Why? Because I am the vine. I am the source of life. I am the life source for the vine, which is you. You're the branches. And so We have to know him as the resurrection and the life, but then we have to know him as the sustainer of our life. Well, I hope that has shed some light on these scriptures. And as we close and you get into discussion time with each other, I have some direction for you to go. I want you to go ahead and read Ephesians 1:19 through chapter 2, verse 7, and discuss how the resurrection and the life has resurrected you in your life and consider your life before salvation and your life now, and what is the difference. Read John 15, 1 through 17, and discuss what it means to abide. Discuss how the pruning process increases fruitfulness. And also, if you have time, talk about, is Jesus being the vine different from Jesus being the bread of life? Is there a difference, or is it just another way of saying the same thing? All right, I'll see you next week for our last lesson, and I pray that you have a wonderful time of discussion and prayer.